Okay, what's going on, guys? We're going to do a bit of a change in the way that we do this. This one is going to be based around the 4-2-1-3. I know there's probably one of the top three formations right now inside the game, and the way the tactic system is laid out is only a specific formations that you can choose. So, for example, the 4-1-4-1, even though it's so similar, it's really going to depend on do you have, for example, a player that could play, for example, like Sun in this example, he can play striker, but Dembele can't play left mid. He can play right mid, but Foden can't play left mid. So this would be an example where you only have a few select version of players. But we're going to go through this. So we're going to go backwards. So first of all, we'll start with the defensive formation. Now, although you could argue the 4-2-1-3 is actually in a good position to be poised to defend, we have gone with the 4-5-1 here, or the 4-1-4-1. I think the 4-1-4-1, the fact you have a CDM just makes it a bit better defensively. These are the tactics as well. And we're going with the defensive approach. Keeps resetting. Very, very annoying. But this is on 31. So this would basically be the furthest you can go into defensive territory without going into deep. So that's why we have 31. We've got the build-up style on balanced. And then that's the team that we have in regards to this. In terms of the player roles, we have the holding CDM on holding defend, both the center mids on holding, the left mid and right mid on wide midfielders. Now, to be honest, you could probably even get away with maybe even going with like a winger or an inside forward here. You don't have to use wide midfielder. The benefit of wide midfielder, you can put them on wide midfielder defend to make the formation more attacking. Let's say you're trying to hold out the lead and then the person that's out of position. So if you did copy this like for like and you wanted to move someone out of position, then we're going to put Foden here in the false line. Build up play. Otherwise, you could put someone else. And as you can see, we've got a very defensive stance, defending in a 4-5-1, very solid at the back. But you can see the biggest issues, it's very, very hard then because like, the only other option I have is if I change, for example, to a 4-3-3 third variation, which I would recommend instead, because this way you have two CDN, but the left mid and right mid, they don't really come back. Maybe you can put them as wingers. They don't really help as what they would have done before. That's the only reason why I didn't lean towards the 4-3-3 defend. So that will be the formation to close the game out. Then we have the neutral 4-3-2-1. So this is the one that you would start the game on. We've gone with counter, balanced, and these are the player roles. So inside forward balanced. We just have one on the right hand side, the more attacking player on roaming, especially because Dembele has a plus plus. So if you ever have a plus plus, look, in my opinion, don't worry too much about like, okay, if Dembele is a winger plus plus or a wide playmaker plus plus, should I put Dembele on a wide playmaker plus plus? No. Go with what you know. If they have the plus plus in that category, it's a benefit, but it's not a must. Okay, so for example, like let's say Son had a false 9 plus plus, there is no chance I'm putting false 9 on Heung-min Son as my sole striker. Maybe if I would have a poacher with no plus plus, but don't try to force something that you know is not going to work. So always choose the role that you want. If you get a plus or you get a plus plus, it's the benefit. We've got the playmaker on Bon Mati, and we've got Guijarro and Tonali in CDM. On this account, I'm actually not going to play on this account, but I'm probably going to buy Alexia on Sunday when the prices reduce. And we've got both the left back and the right back on fullback defense. So again, this would be the neutral formation, the one that let's say you start the game, you go straight into the game. This would be the neutral 4-2-1-3 that you would go with. And as you can see, look, that's the good thing about the 4-2-1-3 is look, as long as you can get the right players here in the right order, or let's say you have someone like Foden who could play left mid and right mid, who wasn't really annoying like that. I just moved Son, who was my striker, into left mid. You could have a defensive variation and an attacking variation of the same formation. So what I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to create tactical layouts for each different formation variation, because that's the way you're going to be forced to use this because of the system. I was hoping more roles would come out and stuff like that, but nothing like that has come out. There's not hardly any roles, hardly any positions, so we're still stuck with it 1 month later. Do you want to get better at FC25? Now, before you skip ahead, what if I told you if you joined my FC school and you didn't get better after 1 month, I'll refund your money? I can say this because I've been running my FC school for many, many years, and thousands of students join and even stay on. We go over complete in-depth gameplay tutorials showing you both the theory of something and the gameplay examples using real-life examples in a structured format that's like a course. The videos are on a systematic learning system teaching you everything from the core mechanics, the basics, to the meta, so you can get better as a whole, with explanations that go beyond the scope of my YouTube channel. FC School has already started with every single tactical layout, focuses, meta cards, and learn the meta before it even becomes the meta. So come join thousands of others in a mature audience community for those looking to get better at FC25, patreon.com/nilguides, or click the link down below. Now, when you join, we already have a library of hundreds of videos, more than my YouTube channel, in fact, with new videos on FC25 getting constantly added so you'll never run out of content. The biggest mistake people do is they spend thousands of dollars on FP points every year thinking this will make them better, but it won't. But now it's time for you to make that change. Don't forget, if you don't get better after 1 month, just send me a message and I'll refund your money. That's the Nil Guides guarantee. Links down below in the description, patreon.com/Nil Guides. Then will be an alternative formation. Now, I managed to put the 4-2-3-1, the regular 4-2-3-1 in here. Counter again. This is reset. Oh my god, it's so honestly so annoying how this keeps resetting. This would be 60. But again, the depth is not really going to make, you're not going to notice that much of a change. But the 4-2-3-1 here now with this one, the difference is, look, we got the cam on a playmaker, not a shadow striker, but we put wonder CDMs to a defensive player. Now, if you have 2 center mids, for example, and you can't do this, then probably you should not be using this formation anyway. That is the only downside, for example, with this layout, is that you're going to be forced to use CDMs. So like players like Patri or Tonali that can play both those roles, but players like Bon Mati who can only play cam and center mid, that's where you're really going to struggle to fit these players in. So what I would say is, whenever I release these systems, look at the systems and decide, do you want to try this out? If not, we're going to, at the end, I'm going to show you where I want to put these systems on my website so you can see where these go. But we've got Dembele and Foden as shadow strikers. Son as advanced forward. I probably would put a poacher there, but because Son's got the ++ and I finesse with him, I put him advanced forward. We've got Guijarro holding. The left back and the right back are wing backs. They are going to provide a width going forward. They're going to be quite neutral going forward and going backward. They're not going to be too aggressive nor too attacking. And then Tonali drops in. So basically, you have a 3 back, a 3 wide midfield. You got the cam and you got the 2 shadow strikers, and then you got the central cam. So to be honest, you can argue you can actually attack in like a 5 system layout, maybe even a 6 if you consider Bon Mati in as well. Actually a very good intuitive system. But the idea behind this is, let's say for example you can't break with this system, you could provide a bit more oomph with this system over here. It's a different variation, almost identical with the 4-2-1-3, except for you don't have Lambs and Rams who are wingers or would have been wingers last year. The Lamb and Rams, they don't really come back, so you could argue this is even more attacking. And that's the only downside of this formation, is that it's kind of silly how even with a playmaker on balanced, they literally don't come back. It's ridiculous. If you're watching this, EA, change this. I do use half winger. Another thing that you can use is half winger. You might have seen this on my 4-2-3-1. That could be another variation. In fact, this is the one that I would suggest the most. I think most people prefer the kind of the playmakers and the shadow strikers. But with this system, you kind of have the wider players. So depending on if you want your alternate formation to be wider or narrow. But I think with this one, you have a good break because you've got 2 wide players. So this one is more of a, okay, you're trying to go through the wider areas, but you also have the width. And this one is you have pure width with the left back and right back and the lamb and ram. But of course, you can adjust this how you want to as well. Then we have the very attacking 4-2-1-3, which we have the high depth. This one time it worked. And as you can see, it's very, very aggressive. You know, you're talking about so many players going forward. You have attacking wing backs on both the left and the right hand side. Maybe a bit too extreme. So before you go into your weekend league, maybe at least try these tactics, at least in one rival game. Try that. If you are going to, I know I'm releasing this a bit late on Saturday, but if you are going to go a bit late, maybe you consider putting one of the fullbacks on attacking wing back and maybe having one of them on stay back. But I'm very much, again, my skill of, I'm very much comfortable having 2 players at the back with 2 CDMs. But you have like an attacking 6 again. Very, very attacking, almost counter-like-ish kind of. I mean, of course, when you're defending, you're going to be defending like this. And then when you're attacking, you're based like this. So it's basically a more attacking variation of the balanced one. In fact, looking back at this now, everyone's going to start blaming me, saying, oh, this formation sucks. When it doesn't, it's really more of a skill issue yourself. But let's just say, you know what? I'm going to just say fullback defend. This is why when I release these tactics, it's very important that a lot of people just copy the codes and they start crying off. That's why it's very important you watch the videos so you understand why. Because there's certain things like, you know, if you know you struggle with losing a player at the back, don't go too gung-ho. You can see, for example, like here, if you're struggling with the 4 backs going, at least you have 1 width by 1 player and you still maintain a back 3. You do have 2 CDMs. So you do actually have a lot of leeway. But that will be the more attacking variation of the balance system. To be honest, I would probably spend most of my time in the balance formation, and you can think about, or you can literally copy the balance tactic. Let's say you love the balance. Let's say you use balance at nil. I love the balance. What you could do is you can add the balance tactic, you can copy it like for like, and then what you can do for the very attacking, you just have one player join the attack. So you can see that's kind of what I did. The only difference is Bon Mati is now a sort of a playmaker. She is a shadow striker, and you can see Dembele is still keeps it, but he's on roaming, as opposed well, you can technically put them on. Yes, you can put them on inside forward attack, but they literally don't come back. So it's sometimes it's better to leave it something like this. And then, for example, on this one, have either one player or the side. So, like for example, like here, if I was going to do it with a one system, I got roaming on Dembele. He can basically be out of position. It's not too much end of the world because Kadioglu is covering for him, whereas Foden might need to be on balance because Batcher's not there. They both might need to come back as well. So these are just a few things that you need to always think about. So this would be an example template that you can use. So just do bear this in mind. And then we go to the pressing tab. Now, to be honest, to press in this formation, it's not ideal. You ideally want center mids. So if you wanted to copy this code, this is what you can copy. Like for like, 70, counter-attack, 4-2-1-3. And then these would be the roles. And you can see, technically, if you want to press, in a 4-4-2. That's what would be ideal. So that's what I'd recommend. So pressing in a 4-4-2 would probably be the most ideal, the thing that I'd recommend. But let's say you couldn't do that for some reason. You can use this. Look, the CDMs, they sit a bit too back, a bit too reserved. So like, if I was to, let's say, do this hypothetically, I would go with something like this. Even if that means that something like this happens, even if that means something like this happens, the reason why I'll do this is because the center mids, they sit higher, and I can always control with teammate contain Bon Mati. So that's just something just to bear in mind. So although you can do what I mentioned with the 4-2-1-3, a 4-2-4 may be balanced. The only other solution you have is this will depend on what players you have, right? So let's say, for example, the 4-2-3-1. So there's two versions of the 4-2-3-1. You could technically, if you want to replicate center mid, you can't. So you could technically use this for even your defensive formation or for one of your attacking formations. You could do something like this. It won't really work because Foden will be out of position. But if Foden was in the right position, that could be an option. So I'm just giving you some different variations in case you're wondering, like, okay, is there anything else that I can use? 4-5-1 we went over. The 4-3-2-1 is actually an interesting one. You can't make this defend in a 4-4-2. I think, yeah, you can basically make I don't think it's as underrated people make it out to be, but you can put a shadow striker on both of these players, and you could basically make it like a 4-3-2-1 last year. Or alternatively, you can put these players on half wingers, and it ends up attacking like a 4-3-3. So that could be another option. But again, at that point, you might as well just use a 4-3-3, for example, something like that, or whatever you want to do. So that is one of the benefits of the 4-1-3-2 and the 5-4-5-1 layout. You can see Foden can play left wing but not left mid, and that is the reason why, unfortunately, some of these formations don't work. But that's just something just to bear in mind. Look, if you're asking me for like a pressing formation, I'm always going to go towards a 4-4-2 or 4-2-4, something like this. And then if that means that, okay, I might lose a play out of position, I don't care. As long as I can press in a 4-4-2, you need those center mids to sit highest when your opponent has the ball with your center backs. Your center mids are close to go and press the ball. The problem is in a 4-4-2 second variation, or with one with CDMs like a 4-2-1-3, they sit a bit more defensively, sit more deeper. So when you're trying to press, it's almost your opponent has a massive gap in midfield because your CDMs are so far sitting deep, they're not going forward, and it gives your opponent more presence and space in midfield. So you want your midfield to be as tight as you can to your opponent's center backs. So even if you was to artificially increase the depth, it wouldn't actually make them. It would just make your team shape move forward, not the center mids move forward. Does that make sense? So that is why I'd probably go with a 4-4-2. Unfortunately, here I can't play that player. But if I have to, worst case scenario, I could do something like this, and then maybe put like the Bon Matty. So if you can find a player that can play center mid, cam, striker, I literally don't think there's that many options here. We're gonna end up going just to foot.gg. Just gonna very quickly finish this off. We can go to foot.gg. So I'm just going to show you as an extreme wild example. Let's put it down to that, right? So let's say we like looked for a player that could play striker, cam, semi. Apart from some Evo players, has all selected players. I think it's only like a few players inside the game. Look, Havertz, Hullet, Bellingham. So unless you got Bellingham, the rest of the cards absolutely garbage. So unless you got Bellingham, you're basically screwed. Maybe Havertz could do the role, but unless you got one player in the entire game, nothing would fit in. So that's trying to say it's very, very hard to fit these systems in. So that's what we're going to do moving forward, basically. So in the future, we're gonna with this weekly tactics update, I've come to the point now where I'm thinking doing a weekly tactic for every single tactic variation. So you can see, for example, like here we have these would be the final codes, of course. This would be the attacking, the much more attacking, the second alternate variation of the system, the more balanced one to start the game with, and the one to close the game out. So let me know if you want to see this. So I choose one formation and I tried. It takes a bit longer to make these because then I have to then see what other formations work out and test a few things out. But let me know if it's something that you're interested in. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take easy. Don't forget, if you're still struggling at FC and you want to improve, you can come join my Patreon series, patreon.com/NilGuys. You can click here. If you don't get better after 1 month, we will refund your money. So Nil Guys guarantee. Learn the power shots, first time power shots, first time L1 triangles, all the metas that you need to know before they even become meta as well. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time.